Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream. Today, Ron Nicoletti. I forgot my name, along with Ashley Mayu. A beautiful day here in South Florida. The shame is we had some rain yesterday, so we are off the turf this afternoon. And we had one fantastic turf race in the 9th race today, but I'm sure it'll come back and very soon because after today, the weather looks fantastic for the rest of the week.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you were working the races yesterday, all it did was rain all day long, so it wasn't really too much of a shock that we're off the turf today. I know it did hurt one of our races today, but you mentioned that last race today. Still a lot of horses in that field. I think there's 9 runners. A horse drew in there, and I'm looking forward to it. I had to kind of rearrange my selections, but now I like a new long shot.
Well, you know, it's great. That's what we tried to do this year. We didn't know that it was going to rain so much, but the races on the turf come off. They don't get as many scratches when they move to the all-weather surface, so that was the plan with this new surface that we have this year. So with that said, we have $550,000 in the jackpot guarantee, gross jackpot guarantee pool. 550, as I said, starts in race 4.
Yeah, it starts in race 4. I think a couple of the sequences in there, you can maybe go lighter, but I mentioned the nightcap. I think that's a race to spread, as well as I think one of the middle legs. I think it's an interesting sequence, and we see this number grow every single day. It's been growing for a while, so we'll see if there's one lucky winner today.
Yeah, I'm just totally amazed. I mean, we gave it up, a week and a half ago, $6 million was bet into the pool. It's already up to 550 gross guarantee pool. First race, about 5.5 furlongs on the all-weather Tapeta. Claim is 4 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, 20 down to 16. Brian put together an early pick 5 ticket and $48, and he did go 4 deep in his opening leg.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to start the sequence. It's $20,000 non-winners of 2 lifetimes, so I can see that he would spread here. You can see he does have a single in race number 3 today. He just goes to the number 5 on a tour, the Gerald Brooks trainee, and then in race 4, with it being a short field, he uses 4 runners. He goes all in race 4, and then he spreads once again in race 5. So $48 play for him here, and like you mentioned, he spreads here to kick it off.
Got a lot of coverage. I love the tickets he puts together. $48. So getting to this first race, I did go with, I don't know if you did, but I did go with Valhalla Airpace, who's debuting locally and dropping to the 20 level. You did after facing tougher sprinting up on the Woodbine Tapeta.
Yeah, this is certainly a drop for this Mark Casse trainee. Last time out, didn't fare too well facing winners for the first time. That was towards the end of the meet there on December 4th. Has had some time off and working pretty steadily at Palm Meadows. And I think for me, looking at this field, this is one that's certainly dropping down in class. Others are trying winners for the first time or jumping up. So Valhalla Airbase made a lot of sense.
The number 4, His Romantic, moves to the Robert Moscow barn after the claim. Shipped in from Canada finish. I thought it well meant second at the same level and distance on the all-weather. New connections, they're going to keep the status quo with Rafael Hernandez in the saddle.
And I always like seeing this when a connections claim a horse and they don't maybe use their go-to rider. They use a rider that's familiar with the horse. And I thought it was a pretty good ride from Rafael last time out to finish second behind Weight of Glory. Thought this horse is kind of showing some promise in the stretch, just couldn't get to the winner in the end. And this is one that obviously had some synthetic form coming here, raced on the Tapeta quite considerably a couple of times up at Woodbine and fared well.
I thought the number 3, Loyal Louis, ran well. And I thought this is another one sitting on a winning performance. Actually going to go back and pick this horse up from the top of the stretch to the wire when he closes wide to finish second. So there you see he's the number 2 horse that afternoon. And Loyal Louis, I just thought ran a really nice trip here. We're going to let it roll, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. He goes about 6 or 7 wide in this race. And I thought to run second, he was pretty darn good.
Yeah, it was certainly a step up. I mean, his other performances on the synthetic, he fared well. He was 4th in his 2 prior tries, but this one, kind of looking at the trip, he went way outside. You can see him circled now here, and he is making ground up steadily. He couldn't get to Campeador in the end, but man, he did not want to, get beat here. He keeps on making up, and you can see with the Tapeta races, we see this a lot. A lot of horses kind of across the way here.
Yeah, and those horses that just set the trip. They got that inside move on there. So I wouldn't leave Loyal Louis off your ticket. Let's go to race number 2. We're going on the fast main track this afternoon. It's a 1-mile claimer. These are fillies and mares 4 and up, non-winners of 3 in life, and we both have Lunar Blast, so take it away.
Not a shock to see us both use this one on top. I think when you look at this Rohan Crichton trainee, picked up that second lifetime win at 2 starts back. That was going today's 1-mile distance, and last time out was at this level, staying with this condition, and was trying to get to 2 horses in there. Time to 2-step, and Shadaley, who's back in this spot once again today, but this horse has been pretty consistent in her career so far. She hasn't missed the board, and the mile distance has suited her well.
Yeah, I like the way this horse just stalked that compact field, finished 3rd in the first try. That was against the non-winners of 3, so I think this is a good spot. And, of course, Louis Sire certainly adds to the appeal. You alluded to Shady Lee. Wheels back, broke from the outside, chased the pace, finished second, actually in front of Lunar Blast last time out.
It It was her first time getting back onto the dirt in quite some time. She was on the turf for a while. They tried her on the Tapeta here, and she actually had a second place finish, 3 starts back on that surface. But I thought her return to the dirt on the drop-in class, she performed well. She kind of had, I think, one thing when you look at, she was chasing throughout, and I don't think that was really the best for her. Like you can see, she's been on the lead in some of her starts. So I think if she can get forwardly placed in here, that's typically when you see the best efforts from that mare.
You went with Candy's Dream in third this afternoon.
This one's out of the Mike DiPaolo barn. Second off, the claim was claimed a couple starts back for 10,000 towards the end of the meet at Woodbine. Then last time out, knowing that this one had that synthetic and Tapeta performances, kept her on the Tapeta, didn't fare too well. So going to get on the dirt, has only been on the dirt one other time in her career. So we'll see how she does. But I will say her most recent work at Gulfstream Park on the main track, I thought was promising in 48-2 breezing.
It's part of the rules. I have to pick any horse with the term Italy in it. Miss Italy is back locally after following that 4th place finish behind those top 2 that we were talking about, with a 2nd place finish, sprinting up those 8 condition claimers at Tampa. Still trying to figure out the conditions at Tampa, how they relate to South Florida. But it's Antonio Sano, Lionel Reyes in the saddle.
I think you'd be sinning if you didn't use Miss Italy with the name, as you mentioned. It is tough sometimes mapping those races at Tampa over here to Gulfstream, but I thought last time out it was a good effort. Looking at the buyers in here, I think everyone's kind of at the same level too, so maybe she will fit well here at Gulfstream.
Let's go to race number 3 this afternoon, about 1 mile and 1/16 on the Tapeta. Claimers, fillies and mares 4 and up. $10,000 the claiming price. Had a jockey change on the 6. Make that rider Miguel Vasquez. We're in a lot in agreement this afternoon. I guess they're like the logical horses. Lido Key, who is who I'm alluding to, is dropping to the 10 level. Showed a fondness for the local all-weather surface when she shipped down from New York to feed those 20 claimers at the distance. Now, is there a red flag here? Dropping to the 10 level?
I don't think there's a red flag. I mean, last time out, she was dropping. She was in for 20. No one took her in that case today. I don't know if that's going to be the same situation as that kind of claiming price, as you've alluded to. It's going to be slashed in half. But last time out, it was her first start and having about 2 months off. Not really a layoff, in my opinion, at least, just because she was coming in from New York. But she handled the surface beautifully. It was certainly a step up from her last 2 efforts. So to me, she's going to be tough to beat in here. I see we can kind of agree. We have that cold super, I think, for the first time today. But she does seem to be the one to beat.
Yeah, that horse we both have in second, Caribbean Kitten, who will depart from the rail after debuting locally to set the pace and weekend. Finished third against 10 claimers. That was her first ever trip over this all-weather surface.
And for her, I would say she had a layoff. She had several months off since that last time when she was seen at Monmouth Park, going a mile on the turf course there. I thought she ran okay. She was on the lead, which was interesting. She hadn't been on the lead in quite some time in her career, but I thought she fared well. And something interesting to note, I did pull a trainer stat here for Fausto Gutierrez, kind of looking at the numbers that he's had. And this was an interesting stat. I went back 2 years because I know the form used a year, but last 2 years, second off a 45 to 180 day layoff. The barn's done quite well. 9 for 27, 33% in terms of wins, almost 60% in the money with a $3.69 ROI. So big numbers here. If you even go back to last year, the numbers are even higher. So I do think Caribbean Kitten is going to improve today.
That is some stat. I would never expect that. That's amazing. See, that's DRF formulator. You find a stat like that. That's on the 1 horse. 5 on a tour will face the 10 open claimers after failing it on track. That was a local debut against 16 starter allowance runners. For Mr. Gerald Brooks, you're getting Jose Ortiz at top. 2-time winner on the Presque Isle all-weather surface. Still hasn't really translated where you could say, oh, if they run well up there, they're going to run well down here. It's sort of been 50-50.
Mixed bag of apples, for sure. And this one's actually 4 for 5 in the money on the synthetic. That lone non-synthetic on the board performance was last time out. But the big thing to note there, starter allowance competition, she went off at 42 to 1, and she certainly didn't have any pace to close into. You can see she typically closes from off the pace, and last time out she was last early on to an opening quarter of 26 and 1.5 and 51 and 1, which we know the Tapeta races typically are slower, but that's some pedestrian-like fractions for that opening quarter, so wasn't going her way. I do like to see, though, that Jose Ortiz is aboard today.
Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'll have my Rainbow Six ticket. We've chalked out in the first 3 races. Let's see how we do in the last 5.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round by first inside. Race. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today, Ron and Ashley. We had some adjustments with the microphone, and Dennis just got off the air just in time.
Yeah, and before that, I don't think your math was right when you were talking about the number of races. So we still have 6 to go here. We're going to kick off the Rainbow Six here.
That's it. That's why I should have known better than that. All right, the 6th race, a mile and 70 yards. Let's look at my ticket. I'm not that good on math. So I got a $43.20 ticket. I know how to do that at least. We'll talk about the 4th. Interesting day today with the 5th race. My top 3 selections were scratching. That was not a turf race, so I had to redo that one. And in race number 6, I got Bronx and King Tarzan on my ticket. Race number 7, I think Champagne Ivory ran well at this mile and a half already on the Tapeta, but I kept Federalist Papers on top. By the way, that one a mile and a half now on the Tapeta. Race number 8 this afternoon, just too deep with You're Killing Me and Tiger. And in the last race, as you mentioned earlier today, it's come off the turf, but it's still a really nice race. And I had Sitting Pretty as my long shot, who has now become probably my best bet of the day with the move to that surface, Mose and Fast as flight for me in that race. So getting back to race number 4, as I mentioned. Now, this one was originally scheduled for 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and it'll be run now at a mile 70 yards on the all-weather surface. So it's still around 2 turns like the 7.5 furlongs in here. And you kept it, or you have the number 2, Noble Indy, on top of your ticket.
Yeah, this is not who I initially had on top. I did have to adjust a bit in here, but Noble Indy, this one on the Safi Joseph Jr. barn, kind of looking at the performances, now moving to the synthetic. Had that try in the synthetic last time out, but the waters were deeper, and I think the other thing is this gelding was making his first start off a long layoff. 2 starts before that, last time we saw him was in the Mr. Steel back in July. He finished a nice 3rd in that race. Had an 89 Beyer speed figure, beaten by a length and a quarter. He had to face Max KO, who finished right in front of him. So I'm hoping that today, second off the layoff, the drop in class, he can improve.
Yeah, the drop is short. I had this one on top, and I did a little rearranging with the number 3 Threshold. Turned it around. This one goes to the Larry Ravelli barn after the claim. Surrendered a late lead when finishing 2nd against this level. That was going a mile on the turf last time out. This barn, ridiculous. 54% with new claims. Paco Lopez, but look at this horse's record on an all-weather surface. Perfect 2 for 2.
Yeah, 2 for 2, and you can go back to one of those races 2 starts back. Well, in for the $32,000 tag, which I compare to be pretty similar to today's competition. Was the best horse in there. Proliferate is a horse we've seen down here, finished 2nd in there. So obviously likes the synthetic, has faced similar competition up at Woodbine and has fared well. And you mentioned that stat. You talk about big stats. First off the claim, I don't know anyone else that has a stronger number.
Well, you want the speed. It's Piece of Bacardi. This one is speed. Ared Ortiz Jr. It looks like the speed of the speed to me this afternoon.
Another horse kind of invading from Woodbine. Finished 5th last time out after being that pace setter. Didn't, get the win that time, but 2 starts back while being the pace setter, going a mile and a 16th. Fared well on the Tapeta up there. So Martin Drexler does well with these claiming horses. We've seen him with a couple wins so far this meet.
Race number 5 this afternoon, 6.5 furlongs. Maiden claim is 3-year-olds, 35 down to 30. Scratch the 1, 6, 7, and number 11. I'm curious to see how Brian handled this late pick 5 ticket, and he went with the 4, 8, and 10. We'll talk about that horse, that race in a minute. And he's got some nice coverage.
He's got some nice coverage. You can see in race 7 specifically, he used just 4 runners in there, and that race was originally a mile and a half on the turf, now a mile and a half on the Tapeta. As predicted, there is a single somewhere. Race 8, the number 5, he singles the morning line favorite, another Larry Ravelli horse, You're Killing Me. And then in race 9, I think he uses some of the horses that you liked in the nightcap. He'll use the 1, Fastest Flight, as well as the 4, Cadencia, and the 9, Mose for Bill Mott. So a $36 play here for Brian.
Very good ticket. They had $36, affordable. So getting back to this race today, 6.5 furlongs. And as I mentioned, I lost my 3 selections in here. So I went back and look at that. It's still almost pretty much in agreement. We'll start it off with our number 8 horse, and that's Sarawat, who's dropping to the 35 level after that 4th against 50 maiden optional claimers, going 3/4 of a mile.
Kind of looking at this race before scratches, I have a feeling you like Prince Marco as well. So this is a horse that I used underneath, now bumped up, who's not going to wear blinkers today, has wore blinkers in the last 3 starts. You just see the performances, 2 starts back. This one was 3rd at the $50,000. You see with the maiden optional for the Florida breds versus the other state bred runners. Had to face Bird Wildcat in there. I thought it was a good performance last time out. Got tired in there, was chasing, and that's been the big thing with Sarawat, has been chasing throughout and hasn't gotten that lead. So it'll be interesting to see this field today. Who ends up being the pace setter? Can this one be a little closer?
And maybe going with a first-time starter in here like you did in second Unico. I had a little further down. We basically got at the same try, flip-flop. It might be the way to go in this spot.
For me, when I saw Unico, I saw first off 15-1 morning line looking for a price, but this one's by Kozan, who's obviously done very well with Florida runners here. And Ruben Gracida has had a great year last year, but has been off to a good start here at the championship meet. 25% from a limited sample of 8, but has hit the board in half of them. Have the workouts been that speedy the last 2? No, but I think there are some works when you go further back. I know there's some time that's gone by, but has shown potential.
Let's go to race number 6 this afternoon. And this one is 6 furlongs claimer, 4 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, $6,250. Clean slate, no scratches, no jockey changes, and you have a late pick 4 ticket.
Yes, I had to make some adjustments as we talked about in here, but I'll use 2 runners here to start it off, the 1 Bronx, as well as the number 7 Committee Man. Race 7 just too deep. My second choice in here, Caroline Story, was scratched, so I used the 8 Federalist Papers, as well as the number 6 Champagne Ivy, who fared pretty well last time out at 1.5 miles on the Tapeta. Too deep in race 8. And then in race 9, I used 3 of the same horses as Brian, but a horse that drew in is the number 14, Always Eden, who I thought was intriguing. He's going to step up today, but has had 2 pretty nice performances on the Tapeta, so I thought the 14 could be sneaky. Obviously not an ideal post position, so a light ticket for me, $16 here.
Well, number 1, Bronx. This one changing barns this afternoon, going to the Marty Drexler barn after the claim, stalked the pace. Finished second at this level and distance. New connections are going to have Luis Saez in the saddle.
Luis Saez jumps aboard. This is a cool 2. I remember we were on air. It took a while to break the maiden. It was always getting kind of second and minor shares. We broke the maiden back in November. Has faced winners in those last 2 starts and hit the board. But big thing you mentioned, Marty Drexler is now the conditioner. Do have a trainer stat here to show for Martin Drexler and just his numbers. He does claim a fair bit. The last year, first off the claim, he's won 24% of the time with a sample size of 37. He's been in the money just over half the time with a $2.03 ROI. Gets Luis Saez, they're 2 for 3 together. So a lot of signs here point to Bronx.
But tell me about the number 7 Committee Man a little further down. I know you and Brian both used this one on your ticket.
Well, this is a big drop. You're going from 25 down to 62.50. Hasn't fared well in some of those starts, but the one thing I've noticed with this son of Justin Phillip is some early foot, so I think he's going to be forwardly placed. He's only going 6 furlongs today. His dirt races, obviously his lone win came on the dirt, going 6.5 at Tampa, but that's back almost a year ago, and he was the pace setter in there. So I just thought it's a speed play. Luca Panici in the irons typically does ride a fair bit of Kathleen O'Connell's horses, and it's Kathleen you always have to look out for her.
The number 6, King Tarzan, is hoping to save a little more firepower for the stretch drive. Set the pace last time out and faded to finish third, was 24-1. That was behind Bronx last time out for Dave Brady. Miguel Vasquez handling the rematch this afternoon.
He's interesting in the sense that he was going, short, then they stretched him out. He didn't fare well on the cutback last time out. He did fare well, but the big thing is, as you mentioned, he needs more stamina in the stretch. He typically gets tired, so it does look like when you look at the race, King Tarzan, as well as Committee Man, who we just talked about, they should be forwardly placed.
I wanted to mention the number 8 Chrome Finishers dropping to this level of $6,250, turning back to 3/4. Had sort of an eventful outing against those 12-5 claimers going a mile. He stumbled at the start. He goes up, and then he rushes up to stalk the pace before fading to finish last. But it's Kent Sweezy. He's pretty good with the turn-back move. Paco Lopez, outside draw today. I think this horse with a better start can be right there. I think it's second choice on the morning line.
Yeah, just 7-2 on the morning line. You mentioned, though, cutting back, dropping in class. It's interesting to look. He's had his fair share of races on the dirt. He's only obviously it's only 1 win, but only 2 on the board finishes total from 7 starts. But when he won, it was going a mile at Ellis Park on the slop. He was able to take them gate to wire. So he has shown early foot, but they've been at longer distances. So I hope that this one just gets a good trip just off the pace.
Well, we're going to go to race number 7, and as we mentioned a couple of times already, this one originally scheduled for 1 mile and 1/2 on the turf. It's now going to be run on the all-weather Tapeta. It's an allowance optional claim of fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. The optional claiming price is $35,000. I want to go back and show you Federalist last race, albeit this was on the turf. We're going to pick it up. I'm just going to pick it up from the far-term home, and you're going to just see Federalist Papers just never has a good trip in here. You see stuck behind horses. Storter has to set. He had the 5/16 pole there, and nowhere really to go. So I just thought that this horse, ran a pretty good race. You're going to see just looking for that spot, and we're going to follow. Then you get to the 3/16 pole, and it's the same situation. Just never gets that clear run. but ends up finishing third in the race.
He ends up finishing third, and I think you bring up a good point. Throughout that turn, Manny Franco was waiting, but both, I believe, the 1 and the 2 were able to kind of go towards the outside of him and make the move. So he's always boxed in. He never could angle out. Then they opted to go inside, and still now he still has traffic. You can see the 2s in front of him as well as the 4. So not the best of situations that kind of played out there for Federalist Papers, but it was a good race overall.
Yeah, it was a good race, and he just never had that real clear. And you make a great point. In the deep stretch there, it goes to the inside, didn't have room, goes back. And so, maybe ran a little bit longer than most horses in that race trying to find the spot in there. But you were right about the number 6, Champagne Ivy. This one, prompted the winner last time out, finished second, going this distance on the all-weather.
Yeah, and what I remember talking about Champagne Ivy, and I said, I don't know about the distance, because it was a big stretch out for her. Some horses in that race, at least raced at comparable distance, if not a mile and a half, and she was one of the few that was stretching out. She had gone 7.5, 2 starts back, and then I should say 3 starts back in a mile and 70 in preparation for that. But she tracked in second. They did not go fast. It's a mile and a half, so I think that benefited her as well. But it was a really good performance for her, and I think with this race being on the Tapeta, she might benefit from that.
Yeah, I kept going back to the number 7, who both have a third Song of Innocence, who showed a fondness for going long, albeit that was on the turf when she was third against those allowance runners, going 10 furlongs up at Belmont. Stretches out to this marathon distance today after coming up empty here. But you look at her record on the all-weather, it's not bad. 3 starts, a win, and a third.
It's not bad. To me, the one thing that has reservations about it shouldn't be your holy grail, the one thing you look for, but the numbers weren't as competitive as some other horses that have been on the Tapeta here at Gulfstream. But I will say the race 2 back, going a mile and a quarter, it's the furthest she's ever run. She fared very well. She had an 84 by her speed figure. She finished third and faced some nice horses in that race in New York. So I think now second off that long layoff, she can certainly improve, and you mentioned does have some experience.
The number 1, Kate's Kingdom, a daughter of Animal Kingdom, is headed to this uncharted territory. She stretches out, returned from the layoff. She finished that closing 5th against going 8.5 on the grass. Amanda de la Cerda, Louis Saez handling the distance. I think being Animal Kingdom, this one might be able to handle a mile and a half.
I think so too, and she does have that one race at a mile and 70 here on the Tapeta, and she fared pretty well. She was second in there, did make up some ground kind of halfway through that race, and then she had a couple months off, came back, and she finished mid-pack in that race, going a mile and a 16th on the turf. So I don't mind her getting back on the Tapeta, and always a positive to see Louis Saez.
Race 8, 1 mile, fast track, allowance, optional claimers, state bred, 4 and out, optional claimers, 12.5. I think this was Brian's single. I picked it, you picked it. You're killing me, you guys. This one is dropping to the 12.5 level today.
I wanted to get this horse beat, and I started looking, and I felt like it was a reach. I mean, really looking at You're Killing Me, it looked tough last time out. That was at 5.5. Made up some ground in there and just missed for second by a head. Acquior was second in there, only beaten by a length. And I love that this horse, and you look at those races going down the page on the dirt, the last 4 efforts specifically, this horse has made a lot of ground up late and has done it well. So I kind of expect a similar performance, and this horse is going to stretch out today. That's the big thing, going from some sprints now to a mile.
I got the number 2, Tiger, in second, who was second under third at this level and distance. Now, that was 2 starts back, goes back to the main track, finishing 4th against those state-bred optional claimers, going the mile 70 on the Tapeta. Carlos David, Junior Alvarado handling the surface switch, sort of keying off that race 2 back.
I think you put him in the right spot, too, looking at his Gulfstream Park record. He's got 9 starts on the main track, a win, and 6 seconds in a third. So, this is a horse that he's been kind of part of that pace scenario in his last couple, but he's hung around for minor shares in 2 out of his last 4, and those were both at today's distance. And, he's faced some salty competition in those races, so I can understand using him.
The number 6 horse in your friendly fella is debuting locally for Claudio Gonzalez in open surrender, that early 4-length lead, when finishing 3rd up at Laurel. I mean, if they're not aware, Claudio Gonzalez, perennial leading trainer up there in Maryland. I know you're very familiar with him.
And this is who I was looking to maybe try to get the number 5, You're Killing Me, beat. But the thing with Friendly Fella is he kind of runs out of gas in those final stages. We saw it last time out at Laurel Park. That was going a mile. He's coming from a 7/8 race to a mile, and he didn't have enough left. Interesting, though, to note, he has raced at Gulfstream Park. He has a good record here over the main track, but that was pretty far back when you go through his past performances. So Claudio Gonzalez, one to watch here now that he's got a string in South Florida, but I think he's going to have his work cut out. I think You're Killing Me looks pretty tough.
Let's go to race number 9 this afternoon, about a mile into 16th on the Tapeta. Was originally scheduled for the turf, and I've been bragging about this race since they drew it last week. We'll get it back on the turf, but still a good race. Maiden special weight, fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. 3 scratch, the 3, 7, 8, and the 13. And as Ashley mentioned, you see on the screen, the number 14 is going to get in and run. And I went with Sitting Pretty, and I'll tell you why. This one's getting blinkers after setting the pace and finishing third. Now, that was going a mile into 3/16 on the Tapeta course for Christophe Clement, Javier Castellano, daughter of Empire Maker. I love this horse's long shot chances on the turf this afternoon. I like this horse even better on the main track. I think that, proving that this horse has run well on the all weather. We'll see how this one runs.
And she's well traveled. You can see she was in New York going long on the turf for a little bit, and then they took her to Woodbine. They took her a mile and a quarter on the Tapeta up there, and she finished fourth. But I agree, last time out it was a good effort. Scarabee for Jack Sisterson ended up getting the job done, but this was the pace setter doing the dirty work at a mile and 3/16. So blinkers on today, cut back. She's one to watch.
And what about the horse you have on top, and that is Cadencia?
Cadencia, she's had her fair share of chances. My long shot was in here. I was going with the 20-1 shot, and then Cadencia kind of scratched into as the top pick. Irad Ortiz has been aboard the last 3 efforts. What's there to say? I mean, she's typically finding herself in the second place. 7 starts, 4 second-place finishes, but I think looking at her, she always closes pretty strong in her races. Be interesting to see how she handles the Tapeta, but Todd had 2 in here, kept them both in with the surface switch. She had fared well at Gulfstream Park, but the big question here will be the Tapeta for her, but she's been consistent. She just needs to have a bit more late to get the job done.
The number 9, Mose, is a $350,000 daughter of Uncle Mo, making her 4-year-old debut after ending her sophomore campaign with a second-place finish. Now, this was on the turf. It was behind that repeat winner called Blue Times, who actually came here and won on the turf. Bill Mott, he's good with this type of layoff. He's got Junior Alvarado. The question is, they kept this horse in. They think this horse can run okay on the Tapeta.
Yeah, this is one that I really liked. Based, you mentioned a $350,000 purchase, a daughter of Uncle Mo, and kind of looking at the mares in Zay, she's been quite a producer in terms of a brood mare. It's a half to, I believe, Moon Over Miami. It was third in the Grade 1 Man of War last year and is a stakes winner. So a lot to like pedigree-wise, but that last race you've already mentioned, that's the one to key in on. The race at Aqueduct on December 3rd. The winner, you mentioned Blue Times, came back to win next time out. I thought she ran very well. She kind of showed some progression, even though the numbers aren't huge in progression. I thought she really stepped up second time out.
Well, I want to hear about the number 14 horse here, Always Eden, getting in.
For a couple of these horses we talked about, the Tapeta will be the question. You don't know, but trainers have opted to keep their horses in. I have to think Fernando Abreu might be excited to see this horse. I know this one's jumping up, but those last 2 races going a mile and 70 on the Tapeta, she's closed late. She's kind of finished in the top 3 in each of those. Last time out, 40 Flash went to the front, and there was part of that P scenario a little bit. So I thought last time out it was a good effort. Can this one kind of step up today? We'll find out.
Fastest Flight, another horse who's going to get blinkers added after following his second-place finish. Gut was going a mile on the grass here with a track to pace third, going a mile in the 16th. On the all-weather for Brian Lynch, Jose Ortiz in the saddle.
She's been pretty consistent. She's going to wear blinkers today and has that inside draw, which is a little different than what we've seen from her in the past. It'll be interesting to see if that changes Jose's kind of way he's going to ride this race today. But last time out, you mentioned, was third on the Tapeta. It was a good performance. I would have liked to seen more, but I still put her in here. And my late pick 4, I couldn't toss her. I had to use her in the last leg.
Well, that's how we see the 9-race card, but we're not done yet. We have our lightning round, so let's check it out this afternoon. And we're going to start it off in the lightning round with the Stronach 5 returning again on Friday. Very popular Stronach 5, and there's the sequence. Hey, we're kicking it off.
We are kicking it off with race 8 on the card tomorrow. You can see all of our friends are in the mix. We have Maryland Jockey Club as well as Santa Anita and Golden Gate. Hopefully it looks like we got better weather than last week when the Stronach 5 was canceled. So this always is a wager to play with the $1 minimum and that 15% takeout.
Well, on Saturday, you can get your handicapping done early. We've got a couple of really nice sprints. Let's look at the field for the ladies' turf sprint. And then there you see it, boy. Miss J. McKay, 8-5, bought the Miss Armet. A little bit of trouble last time out. We'll see how those two rematch today.
It's a field of 7, but I think those two, they're going to take a lot of playing. They're both really well-respected fillies and mares, and they've performed quite well in their last couple.
Well, the turf is a grade 3 event, $100,000. We'll take a look at that field, and there you see it. And boy, there is a standout here, 3-5 Gear Jockey.
Yeah, graded stakes winner, won a grade 3 race at Kentucky Downs. He hasn't been seen in quite some time. We saw him at the Breeders' Cup, though I believe he finished 6th. So this is going to be an interesting way for him to kick off 2022.
Yeah, and talking to Rusty Arnold, the whole Korea turned around when he started sprinting this horse. So gear jockey 3 to 5, part of the Rainbow Six situation. So do you single a horse like that and make it a pick 5 or Rainbow pick 5? We'll see. Once again, I want to remind everybody, this evening we have the Eclipse Award, the 51st running edition of the Eclipse. I'm saying running. I'm always thinking of racing here. And what do you think? Knicks go?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think a lot of the categories there might be standouts. It's interesting. Knicks Go had a great year, so have some other horses, and it'll be interesting. Acacia's part of the hosting. There's 4 hosts this year, so it'll be good to see Acacia on the TV as well.
Yeah, the Acacia, one day she's here, one day she's there. She'll be back here on Saturday, part of that card with the 2 turf sprints in it. I saw a horse run yesterday, Oakhurst, for Chad Brown. I thought this horse ran exceptionally well. Albeit, it was on the Tapeta, but I just thought this horse exploded through the stretch.
I did too. I think this is one of 2 performances that I really liked yesterday. Oakhurst just gets the job done here, and once kind of called upon, owned by Little Red Feather Racing here, really just gets clear, and seems like this horse could go longer than this one did yesterday.
Yeah, beautifully bred and just, good performance. So maybe you mark that horse down, put it in your horses to watch list. That is how we see the non-race card, the lightning round. All beautifully packaged for you. Let's see how we do the rest of the day. We're going to be joined very shortly by Brian Natto. But before Brian, we got all the scratches and changes from the one, the only, Pete Aiello.
I remember the first time I came to Gulfstream, it was like this big fairy tale place.
We back.
Northern Dancer, winner of the Florida Derby.
Yeah.
All the history, all these great horses, trainers, jockeys.
It is Barbaro to the final furlong. He is a neck in front. Barbaro wins!
It was everything that I ever dreamed of.
Sunday silence surges to the front.
First day, opening day of championship meet, I was kind of starstruck. You're watching LeBron James, and then next thing you know, you're playing basketball against him. That's how I felt when I'm riding with Donnie V, riding with Irad, Luis.
So many famous people come, Post Malone, Pharrell, J-Lo was there. It's epic.
The weather is beautiful. The facility is phenomenal.
It's all about Knicks Go. Knicks Go makes it 4 in a row.
It's one of the most beautiful tracks in the country, surrounded by some of the greatest horses and riders. It's amazing.
I'd always had a really deep love of animals. When I started riding, I felt that instant connection. It was this horse, Siren, that she was a thoroughbred, she'd been on the racetrack. It really shaped me growing up because I had to learn how to be confident, but I also had to be compassionate. And she really was that first love I had of a horse.